الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. Qunut. We did the wajibat of salat. I think we are done with that. And now we'll talk a little bit about Qunut and its importance. Qunut itself is mustahab. Mustahab to be done for the wajib prayers. Mustahab for the wajib prayers and mu'akkad means emphasized mustahab for the Jahriya prayers, those prayers that you have to say loud. Jahr and Ikhfat, we already studied that. So those like the Fajr prayers is Jahriya, Maghrib is Jahriya, and Isha is Jahriya. So it's more mustahab, more emphasized mustahab to recite the Qunut in the Jahri prayers. And the place of Qunut where it is supposed to be recited is after the second surah in the second rakat. Before the ruku. Do you have another marker? Before the ruku. Now, what if somebody forgets? So that's where the ruku, Qunut is supposed to be recited. Now, if you remember, we have al-qiyam al-muttasil bi-ruku, which is wajibun rukni, means after the second surah, after we recite the second surah, after Fatiha, before going to ruku, you have to wait for a while. Isn't that right? At least wait for a second. So, before going to ruku, that wajibun rukni, that pillar wajib happens during the Qunut. So, although Qunut is mustahab, but during the mustahab, the wajib will happen. So, the place is before going to ruku, we recite the Qunut. If somebody forgets, the solution is that you do it after ruku. This is what the Sharia says. For anyone who forgets the Qunut, should say the Qunut when he stands up from the ruku. What if you forget even after the ruku? So if you forget, so here again, if you forget, then the responsibility is that you do it after the salat. Don't do it anywhere else. Do it after the salat. When you are done with the prayers, that's where you are supposed to recite the ruku, after you are done with the salat. And if you forget even after the salat, then the Sharia says do it anytime when you recall. The hadith says, "Ad-du'a'u mukhul ibadah." Dua is the core of ibadat. Mukh means the brain. So we learn in the light of this hadith that dua is the core of ibadat. So that's the real essence of ibadat. So if you can recall the qunut later on, do it whenever you recall, even though the time is, a whole lot of time has passed by, but that still do the dua towards Allah. Now we are talking about if you forget. So what if you ignore? That means you did not forget. You intentionally didn't do the qunut. If you intentionally didn't do the qunut, the Sharia says that don't do it again. If you intentionally ignore the ruling of Allah, now don't do it. Don't seek the dua. Don't seek the qunut anywhere else in the prayers. This is not for you. So this is what it is. Now this is about the wajib prayers. We are talking about it's recommended for the wajib prayers, isn't it right? Now let's come to the mustahab ones. Now for the mustahab ones also, the mustahab prayers also, it's mustahab to do the qunut. It's mustahab for the mustahab prayers as well to do the qunut. And obviously in the same place after the second surah. If you want to recite the second surah, it's not wajib to read the second surah in the mustahab prayers anyways. You can just do it with the Fatiha. Unless if some mustahab prayers has a specific procedure mentioned in the hadith, then obviously you'll do it in that specific procedure. Otherwise, you can just read in the nafila of the prayers, for example, you can just read the Fatiha, and that's enough. Although if you read the surah, it's better. So if you are, let's suppose, reading, you are done with the tilawat, whether Fatiha only or after the next surah, after Fatiha, then we'll do the qunut there. So it's mustahab for basically all mustahab prayers. For all the mustahab prayers, it's mustahab to do the qunut in all the mustahab prayers, including the Salatul Shafa, which is commonly people think that Salatul Shafa, isn't it right? Commonly people think that there's qunut is not mustahab for that, and we need to drop it. We do the namaz al-shab, Salatul Layl, 8 rakats, Nafilatul Layl. Then 2 rakats we do Salatul Shafa. And then after that we do 1 rakat Salatul Witr. Salatul Witr has a qunut. We mentioned the name of 40 people dead or alive. But before the Salatul Witr, we have 2 rakats of Salatul Shafa, and people think the qunut is not mustahab for that, whereas it is mustahab to do the qunut even for the Salatul Shafa. So basically, it's mustahab for every mustahab prayers to do the qunut as well. Now, what to ask from Allah? What to ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, the answer is that any dua. You are allowed any and every dua you want to read, you can read it. You can just read one Bismillah. You can read Subhanallah. Three times or 5 times. You can also read one salawat, which is one of the best du'as. And the best thing, the best is to read any ad-du'a al-ma'thur. Al-ma'thur means which is narrated from the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. Any dua which is narrated from the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, that means they used to read. So it's best to choose the dua which is mentioned, which Prophet used to read or the Ahlul Bayt used to read. Or likewise, it is also best to read any dua of Quran. Any dua of Quran. Quran has several duas mentioned there. And if you read any of those duas, it's very good. Also, how to read. I think no. I think well, every hadith actually comes from him and his teachings, and even what Ahlul Bayt have said. إنما نحدثكم بأحاديث نكنزها عن رسول الله. What they say, So actually, the source of all the hadith of Ahlul Bayt, literally speaking, is from the Prophet. So basically, I think, as far as I remember, it is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. But the source of every hadith is the Prophet, so it's nothing wrong to say that, it's the teaching of the Prophet. Yeah, there is. We honestly don't know the reason why. At least I don't know. I haven't read anywhere the reason for 1 or 3 or 7 or 40, and some of the du'as are 70, some of the du'as are 60, or some things are 60. But common things are 3 or 5 or 7 or 10 times or 40 times or 60 times or 70 times. They say the common ones are 100 times. Some of the things are 100 times. But the reasons, really, we don't know.
Also, what if someone accidentally does 2 qunuts?
Well, accidentally is not a problem, because you are adding a dua. If you remember, we talked about that we can add three things in the salat on our own. A dua in certain places, like inside the sajda, we can add, or inside the ruku. We won't add the dua in the spot of qunut if we intentionally ignored it. So otherwise we are allowed to add a dua. That means we can add any dua in the sajda, or in the qunut, in the ruku, or we can add the tilawat of Quran or the zikr of Allah on our own.
So when you did the qunut in the second rakat, and then by accident, by mistake, you also did the qunut in fourth rakat.
It's not going to harm the prayer.
It's not going to harm the
No. Mm-hmm.
Does the dua have to be the official dua in Arabic, or can it be?
Yeah, we are going to come to that as to what you have asked. Basically, how to read the dua, and the answer is any language. It's allowed to do the dua in your own mother tongue, inside even the wajib prayers. It's allowed. Although we already mentioned, the best is what the dua al-ma'thur is narrated dua. That means from the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, what they used to read in Arabic. So it's the best to read it in Arabic, and the words of the Prophet, the exact words of the Imams, or the du'as of Quran, which is also in Arabic. That is the best, but you are allowed to do in your own language. The words of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt are, first of all, they're based on absolute knowledge and wisdom of Allah. So they know what to ask and how to ask. We are ignorant. We don't know what to ask in the real sense. We don't know what to ask. We think we know, but we really don't know. When you get higher and higher and higher in your ma'rifat, you realize that the previous year, a person realizes that the previous time du'as that I used to do was stupid or silly, the way I was asking Allah. I was not even supposed to ask that thing. So when you get higher and higher and higher, you realize those things because you understand the wisdoms of Ahlul Bayt's dua, and then you will end up realizing what were I doing. So the way we ask is based on our little knowledge, which is next to ignorance. And so it's always better you are allowed to do dua in your language, but it's better to do the exact words of the Prophet without any change. Some people make a change in dua kumail also, or other duas that they recite in, And I always say to brothers that don't make any change in the words of Ahlul Bayt. Just do it the way they have said. Sometimes they make the word plural. In one word they're asking the sigha, the tense used in the dua is for a singular person, and because there are a bunch of people sitting, some people change the singular tense into the plural tense. And I always say, don't make a change in the words of Ahlul Bayt or the Prophet. Do the way they said. There's a wisdom, isn't it right? That's do in the same way. So, if you recall, I think I have mentioned in one of my speeches that I don't know how many of you were present at that time, but Imam alayhi salam, our sixth Imam alayhi salam, was talking about the Dua al-Ghariq, if you remember, mentioning about the Dua al-Ghariq. That means Shubhatun satusibukum fataquna bila alamin yura wala imamin huda. So soon you will be in a confusing situation. In other words, where you won't have a visible flag or imam to guide you. Obviously, imam is always there, but that's how the ignorant people will face this situation. They won't be able to see or recognize the imam. So basically, Imam alayhi salam says in that narration that la yanju min al-halakati fiha illa man da'a bi du'a al-ghariq. No one will be saved from devastation in that shubha except the one who reads the dua of al-ghariq, dua of the drowning person, and then Imam reads that dua, that Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, Sabbit Qalbi ala Dinik. That's the dua. So, and the narrator started to repeat after the Imam, and when he was repeating, he added a word. He said, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, and he added the word here, Wal Absar, Sabbit Qalbi ala Dinik. And Imam alayhi salam said that Allah is Muqallib al-Qulub wal Absar, but Qul kama aqul, say how I am saying. So our Imams have been discouraging the people to add words in the du'as. We have the word wal absar in another dua, which is dua of Nawroz, isn't it right? Ya muqallib al-qulub wal absar, ya mudabbir al-layl wal nahar, ya muhawwil al-hawl wal ahwal, hawwil halana ila ahsanil hal. So that's a mustahab dua to be recited on the day of Nawroz. That has the word wal absar, but not in this dua. So we are always discouraged to add words. We are not supposed to change the words of the dua. So that's the best thing to ask the way they have asked, although you can ask in any language. And during even the wajib prayers in the qunut, you are allowed to speak your own language when asking dua from Allah.
Can you repeat the riwayat about the dua gharib? Like what was like?
Yeah, that's the dua. Ya Allahu. Ya Rahmanu, Ya Rahimu, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, Sabbit Qalbi ala Dineka. That's the dua that Imam recited, and the narrator added a word here, wal absar, which is there in the dua of Nawroz, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub wal absar, but it's not included in this dua. So Imam said that Qul kama aqul. That means say how I am saying.
What my question was basically like what Imam said about the dua, right?
So in the time, that shubha that Imam mentioned, our scholars interpreted that, probably Imam is talking about the time of ghaibat. People will be in the situation of the ghaibat of the Imam, ihtimalan. This is what our scholars say in the tafsir. So in the time of ghaibat, ihtimalan, we are supposed to, in order to be saved from devastation and halakat, we are supposed to read the dua of the drowning person. And then the narrator asks, what is the dua of the drowning person? And this is where Imam taught this dua. So this is what we are supposed to read in the time of ghaibat. That's the dua ul-ghariq. Ghariq means the drowning person who is drowning in water. Yeah, you can read it definitely at that time as well, and we can read this dua anytime. It's a very good dua, and it's great dua in its meaning. The best asset that we can take with us is our deen. So we ask Allah, who is Rahman and Rahman Rahim, and the one who changes the souls, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, O you who change the souls, Sabbit Qalbi, make me steadfast, make my soul steadfast over your religion, so I can take my iman with me. What else is the best thing? That's the best thing to ask from Allah. So coming back to the point that we are supposed to read the du'as, preferably the du'as of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, without changing the words of the du'a. There are several other narrations like that. So And what we asked is ignorance. If you remember the story with of this commander of Muawiyah's army, remember the story? I think it was Muslim ibn Aqaba and Busr ibn Artat. One of them was sent to the city of Ambar for destruction and looting and killing, and the other one was sent by Muawiyah. Between the two, Muslim ibn Aqaba and Busr ibn Artat, one was sent to Ambar, and the other one was sent to Yemen. So this guy, one of these two, as far as I recall, he was Muslim ibn Aqaba, but one of these two, Busr ibn Artat and Muslim ibn Aqaba. So he went to attack. He attacked the Yemen was in the control of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and because the Arabian Peninsula was Imam Ali's government. So he attacked Yemen, and the wali, the governor of Imam Ali alayhi salam, resisted, and he became shaheed. So this guy, the commander of Muawiyah, he entered into the house of the governor who just became shaheed, and there was his wife, there was his baby. He grabbed the baby, and he grabbed the feet of the baby, and he stretched the feet away apart, so the baby died. Such brutal act. So the mother became insane, majnoona. So Imam Ali alayhi salam saw that widow I think it was in Mina, and the occasion of Hajj, and she was crying, my baby, my baby. This, natural. It's natural for a woman who saw this kind of brutality. She becomes insane, and she's crying, oh my baby, like that. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he saw her, Imam cursed, Muslim ibn Aqaba, or that commander, and he, obviously, we are ignorant people. If a person like us, I was there, how would we say? You may say to Allah, oh Allah, kill him. Isn't it right? Imam Ali alayhi salam is the mazhar of the knowledge and wisdom of Allah. He did not say, oh Allah, kill him. And Imam Ali cursed the commander of Muawiyah. He said to Allah, Allahumma atil umrahu, give him long life. Wa azil aqlahu, and remove his aql. So what I was saying to you is that our du'as are based on jahl. If you look at the du'as of Ahlul Bayt, you realize what we were asking or what we want to ask are hamaqat and stupidity, because we don't have knowledge. We think we know it, and we are asking the right thing, and you turn to the Ahlul Bayt, what they do exactly the opposite what we were trying to do. Isn't it right? So the more we increase in our ma'rifat, the more we realize that our du'as were, wrong. So it's always good to not make up dua on your own and do exactly what the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt have asked. If there was something better, they would have already asked. There's nothing better than what they have asked. We need to have iman in that. So basically, in the qunut, you are allowed to ask any dua in your own language, but that's not the best thing. Best thing is that we take the words of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt or the du'as of Quran and ask that from Allah. Also, it is mustahab to recite the it's mustahab to recite all the du'as with jahr. It's mustahab in the salat with jahr, means the loud voice. It's mustahab to do that. Whether you are praying your salat, you're praying jahri prayers where the salat, where the hamd and surah is recited loud, or you're praying in ikhfati prayers where the hamd and surah is recited like a whisper, whether you are praying as an imam of jamaat, whether you are praying as the ma'moom. You are not the imam of the jamaat, you are ma'moom, you are under the imamat of someone else, or whether you are praying furada. In all situations, it is mustahab to read the dua with jahr in the qunut. Except the only thing to remember is that if you read the dua with jahr and you are you are ma'moom in jama'at, your voice should not be heard by the imam. So don't read it that loud to make imam hear your voice. But it's mustahab to read it with jahr.
Then if Imam hears the voice of the person who's reciting, then what happens?
Makruh. It's makruh.
Namaz is makruh.
Yes.
So this is only if you're reciting dua in qunut. It's not in general when you're reciting dua, you should recite in jahr.
Yeah, it's the dua in the qunut that we are talking.
Only in regular dua, is there any recommendation?
Regular dua, I have to double check before I say. Regular dua, it's always good to do our duas collectively, and obviously it's mustahab. It's mustahab to cry in the fear of Allah, and we cry and ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we do it collectively. And as far as I recall, it's also mustahab to read it in a loud voice and raising our hands as well. So, but I have to double check. If you are alone, it's mustahab to raise your voice, or when you are with the people. I have to double check. Other than the qunut. Mm-hmm. Which ayat it is? For Zakaria? Nida'an khafiyya. Yeah, I have to check Bain and Shah for that.
Also, when you say after the salat you do the qunut,
Mm-hmm.
so after you do the taslim, then you raise your hands and you do qunut?
After the salat you do the qunut. Yes, after you do the taslim and you do the takbir, 3 Allahu Akbar, then you are done with the prayers. Then you do the dua of qunut, yes.
Before tasbih, have to do your salat.
No, I won't say before, because tasbih of al-Zahra is the first thing we should do. So after tasbih you should do that.
So this is for standing position, or you can do it while sitting?
No, when the salat is completed, then you are sitting. You will do it in the sitting position.
And it will count like you did it in the prayer?
I can't say it will count exactly like this, but definitely it is still mustahab. You will get the sawab for doing the dua, but exactly the same sawab, that I really don't know, because yeah.
But then the focus should be towards Allah, not towards for God in the prayer. Focus should be towards Allah, not for God. Like if I forget something in second rakah, I keep thinking about that the whole prayer.
You should leave those. You can leave that last one. Those who follow the.
Do you ever tasleep?
That's a different class.
Do you ever tasleep?
Okay, so
Is it allowed to cry in the qunut?
That's mustahab.
okay, so now we move forward towards Taqeebat. So can I erase this?
Yeah. And also, for Shafa, every place I've read it says read, like, the even Rafatih al-Jamal says, Shafa is 2 rak'ah prayers without qunut.
Yeah, it says, you know, it says that, but, you know, it's a, you know, it's definitely, if you like, you can say it's a controversy between some mujtahideen, but the most, you know, you can say the mainstream opinion is not this, I would say. The mainstream opinion is to read the qunut.
Really? So the majority say you should recite qunut?
Yes, there are some books where you will find this that don't read it, but that's not the mainstream opinion.
Aylea, is there a specific dua to recite the qunut in that specific?
Yeah, we have specific du'as actually. If you we have du'as mentioned precisely what the Prophet used to read and what Ahlul Bayt used to read. So any of those du'as, there are several. So no, I'm talking about the regular 5-time prayers. So if you choose one of those du'as, that's better. There's so much narrated, you know. We have du'as to be recited. Actually, we have salat for, in the month of Rajab, you have riwayat, you have salat mentioned for every day. There's a different salat. Day of the first day of Rajab, salat of the first day of Rajab, salat of the second day, salat of the third day, till the end. For Sha'ban, likewise, every day has a specific salat. For Ramadan, there's a specific salat for every day. So you go to the details and you find there's so much told about each salat. So there are mustahab du'as which are sunnat of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. Now let's move forward to the Taqeebat. Taqeeb, which is also mustahab, or Taqeebat is the plural. Things that we read after the salat are called Taqeeb. So it's mustahab to read the Taqeeb, whether you're mustahab for the nafila and for the fariḍa. Fariḍa means the wajib prayers. Nafila means the mustahab. So it's mustahab to do the taqeebat for nafila and also for the fariḍa, means the wajib prayers. For the wajib prayers, it's for the fariḍa, means the wajib prayers, it's muakkad. There's more emphasis to do the taqeebat after the wajib. And especially among the fara'id, the wajib prayers, especially after the fajr. So especially after the Fajr prayers, we should do the Taqeebat. Now, what are the Taqeebat? Taqeeb means either reading a dua or reading the tilawah, the Holy Quran, or doing the zikr of Allah. One of the three. This is called Taqeeb. So, and also it is mustahab, it's mustahab to do the Taqeeb after prayers without a gap. As soon as you are done, without talking to anyone or moving around or engaging in checking your emails or texting people or or anything else, or even changing the position how you are sitting, before changing the position of your sitting, the first thing, and before turning away from the Qibla, before losing your wudu and taharat, before anything, you can say, in other words, basically the first thing after we are done with the prayers is that we do the Taqeebat. And obviously, what is superior is what is narrated. Taqeeb bil ma'soor. Taqeeb bil ma'soor means what is narrated from the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. Do that, what they have said in their hadiths to do. So, and definitely among the ma'soor, among things which are narrated, the most superior is tasbih of Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha. That's the most superior among the ma'surat. So, and the tasbih of Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha is the gift of the Prophet to his daughter. This is the kind of gift Prophet had. Isn't it right? It's a gift of the Prophet. And the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, if there was something better than tasbih, Prophet la nahalahu Rasulullah. Prophet would have definitely given that to her. So there is nothing superior than that. If there was anything superior, Prophet would have given that. So this is the best gift that can be given to a person, is the tasbih, which means we read 34 times Allahu Akbar, and 33 times Alhamdulillah, and 33 times Subhanallah, and some of the narrations say to add one time at the end, La ilaha illallah. This is how the zikr, the most superior zikr is Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Isn't it right? The tasbihat al-arba, it will complete by this. So this is the way we read the tasbih of Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha. That's the first thing after we are done, before changing our position, before talking to anyone, before turning our face away from Qibla, before losing our wudu, taharat. That's the first thing we do. Now, what if the shak happens? So, in the situation of shak, doubt about the number of these things, because these are very, very important numbers. These are, if you want to say, you can say these are secrets. Isn't it right? Because reading that specific zikr soon after the prayers, without talking to anyone, without doing anything else, in this number, in this sequence, has a great treasure, has a great reward for you. The reward, Imam alayhi salam, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, that is superior in 1,000 rakats of prayers. So imagine how much sawab you will get if you pray 1,000 rakats of prayers. Reading this takes 2 minutes. The 2-minute ibadat is superior than 1,000 rakats of prayers. So this is very important to remember. And so we have to make sure, some people start objecting, what's wrong if we do the zikr more, because anyways, the zikr of Allah. There's nothing wrong in the zikr of Allah, but it is not right to do the zikr at this time when you're reading the tasbih of Hazrat Zahra sallallahu alaiha. It's not right to increase the numbers from what the Prophet has said, unless if you want to lose that specific sawab. You cannot say, it's the zikr, nothing wrong with that. The wrong is that you're going to lose that specific sawab. You're going to get some sawab, yes. That specific sawab, no. So it is wrong in that sense. So one of my teachers used to give the example to make it clear that if somebody asks you to walk, for example, 34 steps towards the south, and then you walk 33 steps towards the east, and then you walk 33 steps towards the southeast, and then you dig up the earth from that point, you'll get a treasure. So if you walk 35 steps and then 40 steps and then 70 steps, are you going to find a treasure? No. So everything has a benefit, wisdom, a lot of wisdom behind that. So in the case of doubt, so we need to make sure we read it correctly at that time without increase or decrease. Now there is in the fatwa, there is a solution for the shak happening for that as well. If the shak happens, if the doubt happens قبل تجاوز المحل, before you go further from that spot, that means the doubt happens about the number of Allahu Akbar, and you are still in the stage of reading Allahu Akbar. You did not start reading Alhamdulillah. This is a mahal, the second mahal. This is the first mahal, first place. That's the second segment. This is the third segment. Okay, so you are still in the first segment. You did not move towards the second segment of the zikr yet. So if the doubt happens at the mahal where you did not cross it, you did not go to the next mahal, means the next segment of the zikr. So qabla tajawuz al-mahal means before reaching the next segment. If the doubt happens here, for example, and you did not start reading Alhamdulillah, or doubt happens here and you did not start reading Subhanallah, for example, the ruling says for that kind of doubt, the ruling says you take aqal. That means you consider your doubt is there, did I recite Allahu Akbar 30 times or 31 times yet? So you consider it to be 30. Did I recite Alhamdulillah 25 times up till now or 26 times? You take it 25 times. You take it on aqal and then move forward from there. This is the ruling about the doubt in the numbers of tasbih. If you did not do tajawuz of mahal, if you did not go farther from that segment to the next segment, you are still in that segment. That's the way you will do. But what if you have crossed that segment, enter into the next segment? Yeah, if you obviously we don't even pay attention if we cross if you cross this segment and you enter into this segment of zikr and then you start doing shak and doubt. How many times I did Allahu Akbar? You just ignore that shak, isn't it right? If you remember, we have the law Qa'idatu tajawuzil mahal. That's the law in our fiqh. That if you, the qaida means the law. Qa'idatu tajawuzil mahal. That means the law of moving forward from that spot. So if you have moved forward from that spot to another segment, you just and then you have the doubt about the previous segment, just ignore that doubt. Don't even pay attention to it. So now if you sahwan, forgetfully read more, ignore the extra ones that you recited. And the better thing is that you take for the takbir and tahmeed. This is called takbir. Allahu Akbar is called takbir. Alhamdulillah is called tahmeed. And Subhanallah is called tasbih. So for takbir and tahmeed, if you have doubt, sahwan, you take the lower end and then you add further to make it 34 or 33. Take the lower end and then you add. For Subhanallah, take the higher end. If you have doubt, did I read 32 or I read 33? Now you take that you read 33. You have already read 33. Okay, you take the higher end for Subhanallah. For Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah, you take the lower end. For Subhanallah, you take the higher end. This is what the ruling says about the tasbih.
So, you were saying that if you accidentally or by mistake like 34, you do 35 accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally, then obviously just ignore it and then and ignore in your intention the extra zikr you recited, ignore that zikr. So in your niyat, you ignore that zikr. That's not part of the tasbih, yeah. See that this number has specific reward, It's not said to restart it. We are not told to restart it, so I won't say to start doing it because now you're adding more, even further more into the specific number of zikr. So that's not what is said. So I would not say to do that. Just ignore the extra ones, and then be careful about the next ones. No, I'm only shak. Zan, you'll go by your zan. Yeah, if you have zan and guman, you'll go by that. But shak is 50-50. So we have some other du'as that I want to mention about the ta'qeeb. I think it will take some time, so it's about a 35-minute more. So inshallah we'll continue a little bit more about Taqeebat in the next class, and then we will move forward to Salatul Ayat inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin.